This is, well, actually, it's a public hearing. This is the second of two public hearings for the adoption of the millage rate and budget for the City of Orlando for fiscal year 2015-2016. At the first hearing held on September 9th, City Council adopted the proposed millage rate and tentative budget. At this second hearing, City Council will consider for adoption the final millage rate and budget. Madam Clerk, would you read the title of the millage resolution related to the City of Orlando budget for fiscal year 2015-16?
Resolution of the City of Orlando, Florida, establishing the ad valorem tax levy.
Yes.
Millage rate upon the assessed real property and business personal property tax rolls of the year 2015.
The proposed millage rate for the city for fiscal year 2015-16 is 6.65 mils, which is 4.99% higher than the rollback rate of 6.3342. Is there a motion to adopt the millage rate?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ing, second by Commissioner Stewart. Brian Battles, please. Comments regarding the millage rate?
On July 27th, City Council approved a millage rate of 6.6500, so the appropriate filing could be made with a property appraiser by the August 1st deadline set for the trim notification process. The millage rate is within the parameters outlined by state formula and is to maintain the city's current levels of service. It has not changed from the September 9th budget hearing.
I have two public request cards that don't say which of the items you would like to comment on, but I'm just going to assume that it is on the budget rather than the millage rate. So I have Jonathan Blount and Tori Rena Miley. So we're going to vote on the millage rate, and then we're going to take up the budget. If you want to speak on the millage rate versus the budget, that's fine, but it's probably more appropriate to speak on the budget, if that's okay. Okay, let's see. Got a motion and a second, so all in favor indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the millage rate is adopted. Madam Clerk, would you read the title of the budget resolution?
A resolution of the City of Orlando, Florida, adopting the annual budget of the City of Orlando, Florida for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2015 and ending September 30th, 2016.
Is there a motion to adopt the budget?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ing, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Brian?
The total proposed budget is $1.11 billion, or $1,114,782,174, including a general fund budget of $401.6 million, or $401,607,332. Those amounts agree with the totals presented at the September 9th budget hearing, so there's been no changes since that date.
Okay, public comment. Jonathan Blount. Is Jonathan here? He was here earlier today. I don't see him, though. Okay. Tori Rena Miley? Miss Miley, if you would come to the microphone, give us your name and address, direct all remarks to the council in its entirety, and you'll have 5 minutes. And I will point out that, let's see, did we distribute her memo, Madam Clerk, to everybody, or do I have it?
You have it. Do you have
Are
it?
there additional copies?
Yes.
Okay, I think you wanted these for everybody to have, right? Okay, your 5 minutes begins.
Good afternoon to the Orlando Mayor, Buddy Dyer, and the City Council. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak. It's in relationship to the budget for the homeless initiative that the city has brought to the attention of the public for $4 million. I first heard of this information by way of Channel 27 Morning News and the Orlando Weekly magazine. I won't be long before you, but I just want to publicly thank some of the organizations that have helped me to survive the situation of homelessness. I do not have a permanent address, but the mailing address that I use is 3717 Springland Drive, Orlando, Florida. It's a relative of mine. But these organizations are Homeless Services Network, of course, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, Central Florida Career Source Centers, which have been primarily my source for employment, whether being part-time or any other. iDignity, which provided me my ID cards for free at no cost. Compassion Corner, which has provided me with numerous access to public transportation for interviews or any type of business-related matters. Florida Hospital Community After Hours Clinic for medical care, Shepherd's Hope, and Orlando DCI Biologicals, which is just an open source for plasma donation, but they also pay you. I'll speak as the mayor referred to just the budget. There are some other items on the agenda that you all can discuss in your private quarters. Items to consider in decision-making as it relates to the allocation of funds. Partnership with Orlando Housing Authority for occupancy in existing apartment homes throughout the city and county limits at income-based rates for the current homeless population that have part-time and full-time employment. Design a pathway program to home ownership. Incorporate key components of personal debt forgiveness and financial credit services. Allocate funds to provide down payment assistance and waivers for first-time home buyers. Allocate funds for deposit and rental assistance for downtown district condominiums for long-term residence options. Extend free service nights to local nonprofit shelters. This may accommodate homeless persons that are not employed and mentally capable of independent living. And I've come across a number of persons that do meet that criteria just from general conversation. An example would be at the Salvation Army, they allow you to stay for 3 nights free at no cost. As a courtesy, the city could possibly extend that to 5 free nights, but that's at your discretion. Rewrite a city building code so that existing shelters comply with single room standards that provide a safe environment and reduce criminal occurrences of rape, sodomy, and battery to those in crisis situations. Endorse and support one centralized food bank for grocery and hot meals assistance. My personal recommendation would be Morgan & Morgan Second Harvest Food Bank of Central Florida. Implement a CityWorks short-term paid internship targeted at specific fields that provide jobs at a living wage, $12 to $15 an hour. Currently, I do work part-time, and that's at minimum wage, and that is not sufficient enough. To the homeless population with assessments for permanent job placement.
Thank you for coming and addressing us. You know that especially reducing the chronically homeless population in our community is one of the city's priorities over the next several years. We're on track, I think, to meet our goal of eliminating chronic homelessness among our veterans by the end of this year, and we have made an unprecedented financial commitment towards the area of homelessness, as has a large segment of our community. Florida Hospital recently contributed $6 million towards our efforts, so I think there's more momentum toward working on the issue of homelessness than we have ever seen in our community, and that's not discounting the work that is done by many, 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 many individuals and organizations over the last several decades, but I think there is a renewed focus, and I really appreciate you bringing this thoughtful information to our attention, because none of us have lived in your shoes or worn your shoes, so having someone who's been in your circumstance give us some thoughts is very helpful, so thank you for being here today. Commissioner Hill and Commissioner Stewart.
Regarding, thank you for being here. Did I understand yourself saying you use a permanent address, but you're still currently homeless?
Yes, it's a mailing address as a relative.
And this is what I want to convey, is that oftentimes we think of homelessness, or others think of homelessness, and they think about the person that's sleeping under the bridge on the curb. But we have folk like yourself who seems very articulate, very well abreast of the situations that's going on. May I ask you, are you currently living in a facility, or do you have children? I'd like to know more about you, your testimony.
Okay. Well, just to give you a summary of my background.
If that's okay with council.
Sure.
Okay. I'm a graduate of Evans High School. I went to continue my education at Florida A&M University. Got married. Did not have a successful marriage. Ended up getting divorced and returning back home. I was unable to find a full-time job to stabilize my situation. I had temporary jobs just through various agencies, but unfortunately that was not enough to contribute within the household that I was living in. So then I went to Orlando Rescue Mission. I lived there for a year. After that, I stayed with some relatives in between. And like I said, it just took me a while to actually just have a job that was going to be consistent. I went to the Salvation Army, which I only stayed there for the 3 nights. The Salvation Army, just in my personal opinion, is the structure. It just reminds you of a correctional facility or a boot camp. And when you haven't been in that type of environment, it's uncomfortable. And it kind of spoils you from if you've ever been, a homeless person has ever been at the Orlando Rescue Mission. It's a very different environment. From there, I went to Coalition for the Homeless. A better environment, still had the correctional style bunk bed situation, but it was not as worse as it appeared on the outside as it was on the inside. I received a lot of help and donation items at little to no cost. Of course, hot meals every night. But to me, there seems to be a cycle of homelessness and not a program that's actually designed to get you to a place of self-sufficiency. So for me, I just choose to kind of go here and there until I can get a place of my own. That's been tough. However, I've achieved being able to work on a job for a complete year just within the past week. So that's a huge triumph for me. So just going forward, I'm trying to take one day at a time and handle the issues I can, because there are other things, personal financial issues that come along with my situation that I don't want to disclose publicly, but it's...
Thank you for your testimony, and I think, Mayor, that's the heart of what we all are trying to do with that supportive housing wraparound services piece. But if you can you just remain here after council before you leave? I'd like to speak with you further.
Okay,
Thank
no
you.
problem.
Commissioner Stewart?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. What you have shared with us is a significant challenge that we have in our community, and we are trying to work through that. One of the challenges that we have, as a good example, is that while there's a lot of focus on homelessness, that there's not as much focus on prevention of homelessness. And so once somebody gets into an apartment, we are trying to figure out how to keep them in their apartment, because that's significantly cheaper, and those kind of things that are important to us. So that's kind of what I specialize in, and the work that I do is to make sure that we're there. I'd love to talk with you. Afterwards, let me give you my card and let's spend some time with you. Some of the, I'm interested in your perspective, because one of the challenges that we have, as a good example, is that Second Harvest Food Bank is specifically prohibited from giving away food to people. They have to work through agencies. And so that's the reason why they're a food bank. And so the challenge is that you have to kind of figure out, if you go to them to look for food, they can't give it to you. That's not part of their mandate. But they work through 648 different agencies throughout the Central Florida region. So we have to figure out where those are the best provided. So they provide the SNAP foods, they provide all the rest of the stuff. And we have to figure out where that can work out.
Okay.
But I'd love to give you my card and let you spend some time and see if we can try to provide some space for you,
Thank you.
because we do that kind of professionally. But most importantly, you're a good example. I have another similar case I was recently talked to, where literally the person has to quit her job with the center to qualify in the level of assistance to get medical assistance. Or she has to make 3 times the amount of money she's currently got. So there's a large gap in our society of the people who are working through the system. So they're either here or they're here, and there's not a lot in the middle. And that's the livable wage issue that we have. So we have to address that livable wage because we can make that work. So if you will, Tori, just give my card and let you and I spend some time together.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Gray?
I'm sorry, Mayor. I thank you very much for coming. I had other questions. If there's anybody else that would like to speak,
Okay, well, I
I'll
saw
yield.
John, thank you for your testimony.
Is that it?
Thank you.
Okay.
Jonathan, I saw, Jonathan, there he is. Okay, we skipped over you, but you made it in time.
I was out taking pictures, but unfortunately, the pictures cannot be uploaded so that you can see them. But the pictures are pictures of under the 408, where you have people who are literally living in Checker Park. They're also living in Lake Lorna Dune, and they have their shopping carts full of clothing and other items. And so when I heard that a portion of your budget going forward was going to address homelessness, I wanted to try to bring to your attention that here in the beautiful city of Orlando, we have people who are literally living underneath our bridges and in our parks. And I had a chance to review this with the director of parks earlier, and I learned that there's a Muni code 18A.09, and it strictly prohibits people sleeping in our parks and urinating and defecating. And Mayor, you remember the report that Barbara Poppy gave at First Presbyterian. And one of the most painful things that she said in that report was that our homeless population, unfortunately, they don't have any place to go to the bathroom. So they urinate and defecate openly, and that is a cause for arrest. And these people who are living, and I've seen this now and taken pictures that date back now 4 months, and it's the same people with the same overloaded shopping carts that are living in the same place. And I didn't know that Checkers Park was an actual park. So as an actual park, there are certain activities that are absolutely prohibited, particularly after hours. And so the thing that Bakari said to me when I asked him what did his outreach people do and what did they do with these people, and he says, yeah, Jonathan, we know where they are and all that, but there's no place to put them. We don't have any place to send them. And I brought to your attention, Mayor, after the OUC board meeting, that I had run into the Christian Sharing Center in Longwood, which is a facility, the Oasis facility, which is at least a place where they can shower, where they can change clothes, where they can go to the bathroom, where they can do laundry. And I just heard this morning that Pope Francis instituted showers and a health clinic at the Vatican for the homeless people that's around the Vatican. So I think at the very least, with the heart that I know that our city has, that we can have some kind of sensitivity and some kind of compassion. But here's the thing that's most important. And Tony, you remember when I talked about the Medellin Miracle and the program, the plan, and the budget that they allocated and how they brought the collaborative resources of the city together in order to attack the problem. Well, St. Petersburg has done something that's very similar, and I bring that to your attention, and I just talked to the Economic Development Director a few minutes ago, and they have something called the 2020 Plan. And the 2020 Plan, you can't make what you can't measure. And so they've developed matrix just like they did in Medellin, where they're going to reduce poverty by 30% by the year 2020. So if you establish a goal, then you're going to have to establish the program, the plans, and the budgets in order to achieve that. And so I wanted to see, and I hope that in our budget going forward, that there's a program, a plan, and a budget, and a specific allocation for our impoverished community, for the community that has the greatest need. And there's a report that's coming out today where the police department and law enforcement they have a special designated impact report. They know where the crimes mostly occur. They mostly occur in impoverished communities because, like we did in SIMSOC when I was in Leadership Orlando, if you don't give people resources, they have to find other ways in order to survive. And it's usually the harbinger is in the framework of the disadvantage, which is crime and just total devastation of the communities. You take SIMSOC, Mayor, you probably were in the same class. And you know that you take the same people who are lawyers and doctors and you put them in the segment of the population where they don't have any resources, they don't have any transportation, they don't have any money, they don't have any food. And when we got to lunch, you know, those who were in the upper echelon, we had steak and lobster and they had peanut butter sandwiches. Before the end of the lunch, they were throwing the food at us because, I mean, that's just human behavior. So in order for us to change the community, we have to change it holistically with a plan, with a program, and with a budget. And we have to have targets. Okay, we're going to reduce poverty by 30%. We're going to increase our educational acumen by 25%. I mean, and on down the line. And the beautiful thing about the 2020 plan in St. Petersburg is that it's city-backed and it's county-backed because the county did the study, but they established an incredible collaboration, just like they did in Medellin.
You have about 20 seconds.
Okay, with the business community, all the social services, and what they did is they found out how to make the services that they're already offering work more efficiently because there was a target to do that. And I ask that you do that here. I mean, we can't have our people living in our parks.
We all agree with you, Jonathan.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner comment, Commissioner Gray, then Commissioner Ortiz, then Commissioner Hill.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Now that we're at the second meeting, I typically have waited to hear from the public and from the staff, and I want to thank the staff for the budget. But in reflecting upon all that, it occurred to me that a year ago, we sat here and made the tough decision to raise taxes, and that decision was primarily based upon the fact that we were either faced with cutting services or increasing taxes. And so as a group, we unanimously agreed to raise taxes. And nobody wanted to do it, but we did it. And a lot of that now that we've had the economy's recovered, we've got the funds to do some of the deferred maintenance and the capital improvements that we put off. And I certainly support those, and those are in our budget. It does appear to me, or seem to me, and this is one man's opinion, that there's one area that we can control, and that is commissioner spending. And we can go into the discussion more if you'd like to, but I simply would like to propose an amendment to the existing motion that's on the table, that we adopt the proposed 2015-2016 budget, with one exception, that we keep the commissioner's budget at the same level that they are today.
Okay, for clarification then, last year, or this current year's budget, there was 70 and 25, and the proposal in this budget is that the 70 be increased to 100 with the 25 for administrative.
Correct.
So you would revert back.
My proposal, my motion is that it remains the same as it is for the 14-15 budget today.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
I can second.
Motion second. Okay, Commissioner Ortiz and then Commissioner Hill. I assume it's on this motion or the subject.
Well, Mayor, I had another amendment, and after a long discussion, and I want to thank the staff also, along the lines of what Commissioner Jim Bray was talking about. First of all, I want to clarify that this $30,000 is not an increase, it's actually restoring the $30,000 that were taken away back in 2009. We need not only bring that up, but also for the media to them to know this, because it's not an increase. Having said that, what I like to propose for y'all's consideration is that these monies, as we're trying to restore them, be taken collectively and placed into a commissioner's capital account, and that the balance at the end of every year will roll over also, like ours would, and that the monies be used for major capital projects requested by any of the commissioners and be voted by the council. So in other words, we're going to keep the 70, as Commissioner Gray is indicating, and this other 30,000 per commissioner will be placed into an account to which, if we have a major project, i.e., I don't know, a community building or any kind of project that may be a major project, as these monies accumulate from year to year, we'll have another greater pot to get this money from, so it would not affect your basic capital amount per commissioner. So we can always look into this particular budget first, or this particular amount that we may have at this particular account, which would be allocated for the commissioners, but it would be also voted on by the commissioners. I believe it will be a lot more transparent and according to our guidelines, and I think and good government. So that's my motion.
You're offering that then as a substitute motion for Commissioner Gray's motion?
Yeah, it's kind of,
Yes.
you can call it a
Well,
substitute.
procedurally, that's what you're doing. You're offering that as a, so somebody would need to second that. Then that one dies for lack
Okay.
of a second. Okay, on Commissioner Gray's motion, Commissioner Hill, then Commissioner Sheehan.
Thank you, Mayor. Pose this right. In my district, and I can only speak for my district, first of all, I can only speak for my budget, which was $95,000 this year. But the year currently, nobody made a squawk about it being $169,957. So in a sense, and then the prior year, it was $124,098. And I didn't make a think. I went along with the $95,000 that was across the board. I thought it was fair. And I did the best that I could do, which I was close to $75,000 less than the year prior. Did pretty good, because $21,000, unfortunately, out of that $95,000 that I had was used towards employees. Because I was new in office, I had a new employee and they needed assistance. That has been resolved. So that would have left me, if I did not need that additional employee, at $74,000, and I wouldn't have been now close to $2,000 over budget. When it comes to capital, as you've heard people come in here talk about homelessness, which is the majority of my district. They talked about parks and recs. They talked about senior programs, which is in my district. Majority. District 5 is the tale of two cities. Of course, it's the economic machine downtown, very, thank God, great taxpayers with medium to high incomes. Over in the Metro West, we have $200,000-$300,000 condos, which is a great community. But also in the middle of that, in which the council and yourself, Mayor, by your leadership, that we're trying to create programs and empower the people. We have folk that make less than $12,000 a year, are homeless, are underemployed. They're not worried about capital improvements. They're not worried about speed bumps. They're not worried about roundabouts. They're not even worried about lights. They're worried about food on their table, shoes on their children's feet, housing. And that's what I've been trying to do in my community, in my district, is also be the commissioner for those that have, but mostly to build up people in District 5. And that took funding. that took monies to assist other people that own the ground in organizations, because there is so little to help me in those communities. I will vote against that, but my question still lies. I wonder why in 2013 and in 2012, nobody, when it was even the city had not made the money that they did, that certain people did not decide to ask for this to be across the board. Thank you.
Commissioner Sheehan?
There is nothing so distressing as politicians fighting over money. And I think that we should be setting an example for our community and how to get along. And I think we're not Congress. And I'm deeply distressed by this divide. I'm the senior member of council. I've pretty much come under my budget every year. And, you know, I take that very seriously. And I don't think that we need to be picking on each other. The bottom line is, if there is a discussion of whether the commissioner's discretionary budget should be $70,000 or $100,000, that's fine, but I do not think that we should be casting aspersions upon one another. I think that's beneath the dignity of this council and our city. I have spent my discretionary funds on speed humps and roundabouts and lighting and scoreboards and natural gas extension, because that's what my constituents want, and they appreciate the fact that we have this funding available to do special projects when it's something that wouldn't be budgeted for years and years, or a playground I've used it for. So again, and I think we've all used it for things that we need within our district. But we are adults and we are responsible to our constituents, and if these are things that they're requesting, these are the kinds of things that we should do for them. I can live with 70, I can live with 1,000. I think that, whatever happens, I think it's very generous of you, Mayor Dyer, to offer to restore that funding, because again, it's something that assists us in assisting our communities. But I do not think that we should cast aspersions upon one another and how we use it. Again, we're responsible to our communities and to our constituents and how we do that. I am blessed with representing an area that doesn't have high crime and doesn't have a lot of social service needs. And to be honest with you, I have had a level of success with my children's programs with people in my community who have money that can support those. That's a blessing to me. Not everybody has that available to them, and I recognize that. So I think rather than fussing at each other, we should just have a civil discussion about what the amount of funding should be, whether it be 70 or 100, and just leave it at that. And please, can we just move on? And because the bottom line here, folks, is we're local government. There's no such thing as a Democratic or Republican pothole. We are here to do the citizens' bidding, and I'm distressed that this has gotten acrimonious to this level. We all need to work together. We're all going to need each other from time to time, and I hope that we can move on and be civil with one another.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stewart?
Thank you, Mayor. It takes a great deal of self-control not to say what I really want to say, so let me just kind of say this. Since 2009, I've objected to the budgets of District 5 and District 6 from this dais and outside this dais, and have provided recommendations that didn't even get a second from this council. So, and at the same time, the ultimate challenge of any elected official is that they get a chance to have their constituency make their decision, and that's what they have chosen to do, and that's completely okay with me. So I will say from a personal standpoint, Regina, as much as I respect you, I have been...
But now you got a second, so what's the difference?
My point is that when you say that people have not objected, that is not accurate. I just want to make sure you understand that, and that's okay. And that's the challenges you get the chance to get reelected, and that's the choice, and that's I understand that. I came up with a recommendation in 2009 that everybody gets the same discretionary fund, we get the same other funds, and that has occurred over the course of time. That's, I don't get a chance to control my world. I get a chance to control just my little bit of it. I understand Jim's recommendation, and much like with Commissioner Sheehan, the question is if we're asking our staffs to live under a certain level of scrutiny, what would be the proper word, probably frugality, then I think we ought to probably make that same example. So the idea of moving it up, I'm okay with. I'm okay with 70. I'm okay with 100. I feel a little bit like Commissioner Sheehan. I don't think this is an argument that we have between different districts and who is more, what district deserves it more or less. That's not the question. The question is our districts are generally basically organized about the same, and we ought to live with that. So I'm prepared to support 70. I'm also prepared to support 100, but I think it sends a signal to our community, to our staff, that we're going to do our best to live under the frugality rules that we're asking them to accomplish the same task. So that's the reason why I'm supporting it.
Commissioner Gray?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of responses, and I'd like to talk to Commissioner Sheehan's comments. Look, nobody enjoys squabbling in public, right? That's not what I'd like to do. But as I understand it, that's what the Sunshine Laws require us to do. I'd love to tackle this behind closed doors as a team, air it out as a team, and then come out with a unified front. But unless I'm missing something, Sunshine Laws require us to talk about this. And so is it uncomfortable? Absolutely. But I think if we're going to progress as a city, we've got to be able to talk about differences, not take it personally, and then at the end, we all get a vote. And so, look, the other comment I wanted to make, nobody's saying that we shouldn't do special programs. There's needs all over the city. There's no doubt about that. And I think this council, in the 3 years I've been here, has shown a propensity to embrace specific needs. I guess what I'm trying to do with my motion is say, look, we don't need that much discretionary money. If we have a program in our district that needs city resources, then let's vet it. Let's talk about where the money's going, how do we measure results, and then let's see what the results are. And we do that quite often with a lot of our not-for-profits. So I'm not suggesting we don't have needs and we shouldn't meet those needs. But let's face it, folks, we're going to have to talk publicly about differences if we're ever going to progress as a city. And please, I hope we don't take it personally. It's my opinion, and I just think that we should stay at the level. And if we have other programs that need support, then let's bring them forward and not make those decisions as individual commissioners, but as a council. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Hill?
Thank you, Mayor. And I truly don't believe in grandstanding, because I have asked Commissioner Gray and Commissioner Stewart for a meeting in the sunshine and was denied. Didn't want to say it, but since you said that, I have asked for a meeting so that I can speak to you about my budget, and you said that you didn't feel there was a need.
And if I could,
Okay.
no, you're
And
absolutely
it wasn't a
Commissioner Hill
need.
has the floor.
And it wasn't a need. The other thing is that if one commissioner doesn't think they need the money, I make a motion that they have the right to not take the money. No one's forcing this money on anyone. So with that being said, I just want to clarify that I did try to operate under the sunshine and request the meeting with the commissioner. Thank you.
Commissioner Sheehan?
And again, I think that we can discuss these things in, face-to-face, woman-to-woman, man-to-man. And I wish that we had not chosen this path, but I would again this is getting very heated. We're not Congress. We usually, for the most part, have gotten along on this council. I would like to just say, could we please stop the personal back and forth, and could we concentrate on whether it's going to be $70 or $100,000, and how we're going to move forward in terms of that.
Commissioner Stewart?
Commissioner Hill, you
Yes,
are
sir.
wrong. Do not accuse me of canceling the meeting.
I didn't say you canceled. I
Okay.
said that I asked.
You don't
requested-
abuse me of canceling the meeting. When I canceled the meeting, when the meeting was postponed and canceled because of your daughter's death, do
I've
not
still
bring
been
that to this, do not bring that to this council. It is not accurate, and I'm not going to let you do that.
Okay, here's my thoughts on this, since I'm the only one that represents the entire city and not individual commission districts. I do see that some districts in some areas of our city are more affluent than other parts of the city. Why do we have any discretionary funds at all? We could just vote to have none whatsoever. But I recognize that commissioners need to have the ability to respond and meet some needs that if you had to go through the total bureaucracy of our city and BRC and everything that's involved in making an amendment to the budget, it might not end up being timely. It might not be viewed by the rest of the commission or the mayor's staff as something that's important, when it is in fact important to a district commissioner in his or her district. So that's why I support discretionary funds, whether it's 70 or 100. I do wish we could discuss that without the back and forth on that. The reason that the administration proposed 100 was we have gotten back to a little bit more healthy than we were several years ago when we made cuts in virtually every department except, I think, fire and police, and we cut the commissioner's discretionary funds from 100 to 70, so the thought was to restore that at this point. So I think we've addressed this about as much as we need to, and why don't we just go ahead and vote on Commissioner Gray's motion? And
Mayor, could you restate the motion?
yes, ma'am. Commissioner Ortiz, do you feel strongly you needed to speak, or you ready to vote?
Yeah, real quick, I just want to say, I was trying to offer the best of both worlds. We'll get the 30, we just put in an account where everybody votes for a major project, and then we keep the 70s on the other side, so everybody will be happy. I don't know why. I think that way, if somebody, because I know there's some commissioners may need to spend more money than others, may have major projects, so we can all help that commissioner in particular by putting those $30,000 per commissioner in a particular account. I think, and we stay transparent, and the monies are there for everybody. So I just, if I may, ask for a reconsideration, but if not, that's fine.
That's not available to you because there was not a second to your
That's true. You're right.
motion.
You're right, Mayor. So.
Okay, so that we're clear on this, the main motion is on the budget in its entirety, which includes a provision in Schedule C that allocates to city commission districts a total of $125,000, which is $100,000 in capital and $25,000 for administrative, with criteria that specify public purpose expenses, and then has a list of things that are appropriate for the use of those funds. Commissioner Gray's motion is to reduce the proposed budget amount from 100 back to 70, which was the current budget year's amount. So if you vote yes on this first motion, it is yes to go to 70. If you vote no, then you're voting to maintain it at 100 plus 25 to whichever amount. Everybody clear on that? So we're voting then on Commissioner Gray's motion to amend the budget to reduce the commissioner's amount from 100 to 70. So all in favor of Commissioner Gray's motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
Nay.
No. I got that 4-3. 4-3, it fails.
And Mayor, I'd like to make a substitute motion that we vote on the commissioners' budgets as suggested by you to add $100,000.
That's already in the regular,
Oh, it is?
yeah, all we
Okay.
have to do is vote on the
Oh, it's-
budget.
Okay, then I will withdraw my motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so back on further discussion, hearing none on the main motion then without amendment. Commissioner Stewart?
Yeah, I have my standard.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll pass this down to the clerk. So, as again, I've said this every year for 10 years, so let me say it one more time. As you know, I've served for many years as the executive director of the Christian Service Center for Central Florida. The budget for this year and many years prior to my service in the City of Orlando and prior to my service with the City Council has included funds that provide a modest grant to the center. The amount that is proposed funding for this year is $22,240. None of that money goes towards the general operations of the Christian Service Center. These funds, however, will not be granted until the Christian Service Center unless and until the Christian Service Center and the city enter into a separate written agreement. Such agreement will come before the City Council for individual approval at some point in the future. I want to make it clear that when this item comes before City Council, I'll abstain from voting on the funding agreement between the city and the Christian Service Center, and will fill out the proper paperwork and documentation noting this information. Done?
Further discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So the motion carries. Okay, I have some general appearance request forms, which generally are not appropriate for a budget hearing. But I tell you what we'll do, since you have come, if council's okay with that, after we finish our budget stuff, we'll take these up. Okay, this is the second of two public hearings for the adoption of the millage rate and budget for the Downtown Development Board for fiscal year 2015-16. At the first hearing held on September 9th, City Council adopted the proposed millage rate and tentative budget. At the second hearing, City Council will consider for adoption the final millage rate and budget. Madam Clerk, would you read the title of the millage resolution for the DDB?
We're getting ourselves together here.
Take your time.
This one. A resolution of the City of Orlando, Florida, establishing for the Downtown Development Board the ad valorem tax levy millage rate upon the assessed real property within the Downtown Development District of the year 2015.
The proposed millage rate for the DDB for fiscal year 2015-16 is 1 mil, which is 11.62% lower than the rolled back rate of 1.1315. Is there a motion to adopt the millage rate?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Brian?
The City Council, on behalf of the DDB, has set a millage rate of $1 per $1,000 valuation. Similar to the city's millage rate, the rate was submitted to the property appraiser by the August 1st deadline for term notification process. The millage rate is within the parameters outlined by state formula and has not been changed from the prior fiscal year, and has also not been changed from the September 9th budget hearing.
Public comment, discussion among commissioners, hearing none. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And so the motion passes. Madam Clerk, would you read the title of the budget resolution for the DDB, please?
A resolution of the City of Orlando, Florida, adopting the annual budget of the Downtown Development Board for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2015 and ending September 30th, 2016.
Is there a motion to adopt the budget?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. Brian?
The total budget for the Downtown Development Board is $3.5 million, or $3,526,217. That amount agrees with the total presented at the September 9th budget hearing, so there's been no changes since that date.
Public comment, discussion among commissioners, hearing none. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and so the motion carries. This is the second of two public hearings for the adoption of the millage rate and budget for the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District for fiscal year 2015-16. At the first hearing held on September 9th, City Council adopted the proposed millage rate and tentative budget. At this second hearing, City Council will consider for adoption the final millage rate and budget. Madam Clerk, would you read the title of the millage resolution related to the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, of the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District levying an ad valorem tax at the rate of $1 per $1,000 of assessed value on non-exempt real property located within the jurisdictional boundaries of the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District, providing certain findings, providing for administrative millage adjustment in accordance with Florida statutes, providing for the collection of taxes, providing for severability, correction of Scrivener's errors, repeal of conflicting resolutions, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Brian?
Mayor, we got to say that part about the proposed millage rate of what it's on.
Oh, yeah, I skipped over that. The proposed millage rate for the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District for fiscal year 15-16 is 1 mil, which is 6.5% higher than the rollback rate of 0.9390. Commissioner Sheehan has already made a motion. Commissioner Stewart has seconded it. Brian.
City Council, on behalf of the Downtown South NID, has set a millage rate of $1 per $1,000 valuation. Similar to the city's millage rate, the rate was submitted to the proper appraiser by the August 1st deadline for the trim notification process. The millage rate is within the parameters outlined by state formula and is to provide for administration and infrastructure projects within the district. It has not changed from the September 9th budget hearing.
Public comment, discussion among commissioners, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Madam Clerk, the title of the budget resolution related to the Downtown South NID.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, of the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District adopting the fiscal year 2015-2016 budget for the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District, providing certain findings, providing certain budget accounting procedures, providing for severability, correction of Scrivener's errors, repeal of conflicting resolutions, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by, who was it? Sheehan, and second by Commissioner Ings. Brian.
Total budget for the Downtown South NID is $384,000 or $383,595, and that amount agrees to the totals presented at the September 9th budget hearing, so there's been no changes to the budget since that date.
Public comment, discussion among commissioners, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And so that budget passes. Without objection, I'm going to recess the city council meeting, convene the board of directors for the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District, and do exactly what we just did as city council. So this is the second of two public hearings for the adoption of the millage rate and budget for the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District for fiscal year 15-16. At first hearing held September 9th, the board of directors adopted the proposed millage rate and tentative budget, and at this second hearing, the board of directors will consider for adoption the final millage rate and budget. Madam Clerk, would you read the title of the millage resolution for the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, and Board of Directors of the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District levying an ad valorem tax at the rate of $1 per $1,000 of assessed value on non-exempt real property located within the jurisdictional boundaries of the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District, providing certain findings, providing for administrative millage adjustment in accordance with Florida statutes, providing for the collection of taxes, providing for severability, correction of Scrivener's errors, repeal of conflicting resolutions, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Ings. The proposed millage rate for the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District for fiscal year 15-16 is 1 mil, which is 6.5% higher than the rollback rate of 0.9390. We've had a motion. Brian.
The Board of Directors for the Downtown South NID has set a millage rate of $1 per $1,000 valuation. Similar to the city's millage rate, that rate was submitted to the property appraiser by the August 1st deadline for trim notification process. The millage rate is within the parameters outlined by state formula and is to provide for administration of infrastructure projects within the district. And it has not changed since the September 9th budget hearing.
Public comment, discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Madam Clerk, the title of the budget resolution.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, and the Board of Directors of the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District adopting the fiscal year 2015-2016 budget for the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District, providing certain findings, providing certain budget accounting procedures, providing for severability, correction of Scrivener's errors, repeal of conflicting resolutions, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill.
The total budget for the Downtown South NID is $384,000 or $383,595. That amount agrees with the totals presented at the September 9th budget hearing, so there have been no changes.
Public comment, discussion among the Board of Directors. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, so the motion carries. Brian, anything further on that? Then we're going to adjourn without objection the Board of Directors meeting, reconvene the City Council meeting so that we can thank you and the entire staff for all of the hard work. Would you guys please stand? So
Absolutely.
we can give you a... Job well done. Okay, so we have general appearance requests, and I assume this is related to Emory Hamilton Fields. Kyle has advised me that because this is a budget hearing and has not been noticed as a city council meeting, Kyle?
Yeah, that's right. The sunshine notice that will be published for this, because it's a public hearing on the budget, and we did not notice it for general appearances, because you don't normally have general appearances at a budget hearing. So the appropriate thing, if the testimony is wholly unrelated to the budget, is to have those general appearances at your next city council meeting.
Okay, Byron, where are you? How about, so that these people have not wasted their time coming down here, is Lisa here? Could you and Lisa, since it's a Parks and Rec issue, and whoever else would be appropriate, grab a conference room and maybe sit down with these gentlemen and Miss Torrey and talk about those issues, and then report back to me tomorrow. All right, thank you.